Hello everyone, I am Neela Pandya and you are learning communication skills with me. The aim of this video is to discuss the characteristics or principles of interpersonal communication through examples of different kinds of meaning in communication and how, why and when interpersonal communication shape these principles. Have you heard the name of the great German poet Goethe? He has said, no one would talk in society if they knew how often they misunderstood others. Effective communication occurs only if the listener understands the exact information or the idea that the speaker intended to transmit. As interpersonal communication is interdependent, there lies four basic principles or characteristics that govern the effectiveness of our communication. These four principles are: first, it is inevitable or inescapable and unrepeatable. Second, it is irreversible. Third, it is complicated or complex. And fourth, it is contextual. These principles may seem simple but hard to master. It needs broader thinking and continuous practice. Now let us discuss them one by one. Number 1. Interpersonal communication is inevitable or inescapable and unrepeatable. This is really very tricky. Communication is something that is really hard to run away from. Messages are continuously being sent, verbally and non-verbally, and you can't choose not to communicate. Even if you wish to, the very attempt not to communicate itself communicates something. You can't escape from sending a message, even if you are silent. This inevitability arises from the fact that in interactional situations, communication is usually taking place even when someone does not want to communicate. Is this confusing? Let us take an example. A student sitting on the last bench in a classroom without any expression on a face, staring out of window. The student might claim not to be communicating with the teacher, but the teacher may derive any of the variety of messages from his behavior, like that he lacks interest or is bored or is worried about something. The teacher is receiving messages though the student does not intend to communicate. Or take another example. Sometimes you notice someone looking at you or smile at you. You must respond in some way. But if you don't respond openly or actively, then the lack of response is itself a response. Yes, if you have not noticed that look or smile, then obviously communication has not occurred. Even when you are speaking, your non-verbal behaviors can be more expressing than your words. Your tone of voice, rate of speech, vocal variety, and your use of fillers like oh, you know, well. Such gap fillers can reinforce or even contradict the very words you are expressing. Another aspect of inevitability or communication is that it is one-time occurrence. That means it is unrepeatable. Every communication is individual and therefore is unique and exclusive. It cannot be duplicated. You would reenact a situation, but that will not be the same as it was in the original situation. It is because of variance of tone of voice, facial expressions, location, movement, people involved in that situation, mood and feeling at that time, and many more other factors like that. For example, you can never repeat meeting someone for the first time or making a first impression in an interview or resolving a group problem. You can of course try again, as when you say, I'm sorry, I came off so forward. Can we try again? But even after you say this, you have not erased the initial impression. Instead, you try to counteract this initial impression or perhaps negative impression by going through the emotions again. Remember, we do not step into the same water of a river again. Number 2. Interpersonal communication is irreversible. Wouldn't it be nice if we could erase the memories of our cruel words or actions from the minds of those we have hurt, just like we erase or delete document files from our computer by simply hitting the trash button? But the words we spoke or actions we took cannot be erased or forgotten. Once out, it is out. It is irreversible. The moment you click the send button on the email or drop a letter into the letterbox or utter words, irreversibility happens. You wish you hadn't said it or done it. You regret later or apologize. I didn't really mean what I said. Just you try to reduce or negate the effects of a message, but once it has been made, it cannot be taken back. Sometimes efforts to clarify just cause us to dig ourselves deeper. Keep in mind that materials from emails, social media and other places on our hard drives can be retrieved and are being used in court proceedings. Those messages are used against our favor that we thought had been deleted. See how quickly interpersonal communication can become an interesting field of study. So, words can be kind or cruel and can either build people up or tear them down. What we consider a compliment or listening ear or encouraging word might be just what the other person needs at that moment. So, if you have the choice between saying something nice or cruel, doing something helpful or hurtful, being enlarging or diminishing, build a bridge, not a wall. Remember, you can't unsqueeze a tube of a toothpaste. Number 3. Interpersonal communication is complicated or complex. Any form of communication, verbal or non-verbal, is not simple because of the number of variables involved. Even simple request is extremely complex. You will be surprised to know that there are 6 people involved in situation of communication. You may ask, how is that possible? There are only 2, a speaker and a listener. Now listen carefully how it is so. While communicating, first is who you think you are. Second is who you think the other person is. Third is who you think that the other person thinks you are. Fourth is who the other person thinks she or he is. Fifth is who the other person thinks you are. And sixth is who the other person thinks you think she or he is. I hope you get this. If you haven't, please replay this again and over and again till you get this. Another complexity is we don't actually swap ideas. We swap symbols that stand for ideas. Confused? For example, a book. As soon as I say book, there is an image in your mind. It means that the book is an idea or a concept. A book is a thing containing words or sometimes with pictures that imparts information. But there is a vague distinction since there are many different perceptions of the same concept. Let us understand this properly. A book is a concept, but when I say textbook, the perceptions differ. It means a book which is prescribed for study in school or university curriculum. So when I combine the word text with the word book, the word text here becomes symbol. Symbol means that there is a specific use of or purpose of that book. Similarly, you can say a storybook, children's book, recipe book, and so on. Now you understand how we swap symbols that stand for ideas. We simply use words in certain way, and no two people use the same word exactly alike. For example, one would say, I am meeting a friend this evening, or I have a meeting with a friend. And the other would say, I have to attend annual general meeting of my company today. Both the persons are using the word meeting but not exactly alike in perceptions because words do not have inherent meanings. Remember, there is a possibility of misunderstanding because communication depends on the perception of the listener. Number 4. Interpersonal communication is contextual. Every communication you have with someone happens within one or more contexts. Just as you have learned a couple of weeks ago that communication is continuous and always follows another communication or event, this principle takes you a step further to reveal that there are other factors that influence all your communications. These factors are psychological, situational, environmental and cultural. Let us have a quick look at them. Psychological factor is who you and the other person are, your personality, emotional state and purpose of communication. How you communicate with your boss who controls your workload and paycheck will be different than how you communicate with your peers and people who report directly to you. Situational factor is where and why you are communicating. A conversation about how you are doing at work will be different in a restaurant over a cup of coffee than in your boss's office during a performance review. Environmental factor is the physical nature of where you are communicating. A conversation in an open workspace with no privacy will be different than a conversation in a comfortable office with a closed door or a bus stop outside your workplace. Cultural factor is all your learned behaviors and rules. These come from your family, friends, teachers, hometown, country, religion, and so forth. In other words, all the experiences you have had in your life influence every communication that you have. So, interpersonal communication happens for a reason, and it is important to see that all the participants are on the same wavelength so they understand why communication is occurring. Now let us summarize how today's learning leads to action. Next time you have a misunderstanding or difficult communication at work, take a moment to think about the factors that could have caused it. It may be easy to say, oh, that's just the way that person is, we never get along anyway. But take a moment to dig deeper. Create a checklist to analyze the cause and effect, the content and relationship, and each of these contexts. Just jot down the answers of some questions. How am I doing as a communicator? Am I being a good listener? How is my attentiveness level? Am I letting the other person talk enough? Am I being thoughtful enough in my responses? How can I be a better friend or a colleague or an employee? How can I improve as a boss? How am I doing as a son or a sister or a father and so on? Once you have jotted down some notes, you will know what you could change to improve your chances of smoother communications. Just because interpersonal communication is unrepeatable doesn't mean that we shouldn't try it again, especially if it will help us reach our organizational goals. Therefore, the purpose of these kind of questions is to improve not only your communication skills, but your interpersonal relationship and work environment as well. So that was all for today, and I hope today's information will enable you to take your communication to a productive, healthy and healing level. I will again come to you with more information on communication. So until next, good luck to you.